Welcome to statistics. We're going to do a quick and not necessarily deep dive, but we're going to do a quick dive into mean versus median and to have a little bit of discussion about the difference between those and when one's appropriate and one is more useful, and also how one can sometimes be more trustworthy than the other. So let's just take a data set. Let's say that we have values of say 90, I don't know, say 96. 93, 91, and say 0. Okay, let's just say these are grades for a particular student in a particular class. Now, if we're talking about the mean here, or maybe we should use X bar, our average, if you will, would be 280 divided by 4, which would be a total of a 70, all right? So the average here, the mean is a 70. The median, though, would be 92. And you can get that by, you have 96 and 0, you have 93 and 91, 93 and 91. You have to find the average between those two pieces because we want half the data below and half the data above the median. In this case, the average between those two locations, we'd add and divide by 2, which gives us 92. In this instance, this median value right here is actually significantly more descriptive of what the data is really doing. If these were grades, most of the grades are A's, and then you have this 1 0. So there'd be a reason why the 0 would occur. This would be an outlier. And it's not necessarily descriptive of what most of the data set is really doing. So this 1 0 can have a huge offset onto what the average grade is. So did the student miss the test outright? Were they sick and they haven't made it up? What is the reason behind this one grade here causing this massive shift in what the average would be, or what the mean would be? This median is far more descriptive of that. Now, with that said, if you have a data set where, let's say you have a 96, and let's say here, let's make that a 90. We'll just make the numbers. Let's say this is a 90, and let's say how could we engineer to have an average of a 70 again? Well, this time we divide by 4, so we need a total of 280. So that'd be 180 left. So what if we say the next grade is 80, and then you have a 50 and a 50? All right, so this would be 100 plus 80, which is 180, plus 90, which is 270. So once again, you'd have an X bar value of 70, right? And in this particular instance, though, the median would be halfway between 80 and 50, so that'd be 80 plus 50 divided by 2, which gives us 130 divided by 2, which is 65, right? So the median of 65. Now in this instance, both of these values are actually pretty close to each other. All right, so these are both are fairly accurate descriptions of the data set, as opposed to up here the median being a better description of the data set, because the 70 is in of itself would be an outlier from the 390s, that 0 causing that disruptions. Here, the data set is a little bit more spread out evenly amongst the data points, making these two values right here fairly descriptive, because 70 is pretty close to 65, which means that roughly half the data is above and half the data is below in this instance. And that's when we know when these two match up, when these two are close, that we could really use either one. When we have this discrepancy here, we're going to need to pick between the two to determine which one actually makes more sense for our purposes and what we're trying to do. Now, you can make an argument about we should be using medians for grades when we in coursework. Well, it doesn't always work that way with large data sets, and maybe what we need to be looking at is the mixture of both of these. And I will say that whenever I do grades for my classes, I always look at both of these values, because I think when you have a discrepancy like this, where you have a rather large gap between the median and the mean, there's something else going on there, and maybe I need to look at what I'm doing with this one outlier right here, as opposed to these over here where these are really close, and I can pick I can say, well, okay, so this is a good description because it is in line with the median. Okay, so that's just a real quick discussion of median and mean. You need to be careful when you look at both of those, and also you can think about how one is more descriptive than the other. So the challenge I extend to you is, when is average, when is the mean the better descriptor of the data set? Okay, so that's the one version of this that I haven't gone through. I'll leave that up to you to kind of play around with and think through. Have fun and take care.